How's it going, peeps? It is now time for the raw results / highlights and review video. I'll go over the results, some of the highlights in my opinion, then give you guys my thoughts, my review on the show. So it kicks off with John Cena coming out, cutting a pretty long promo, basically promoting the match at Summerslam, hyping it up, going over what he feels about Brock Lesnar, how Brock, is an ass kicker, and that, yeah, Brock is gonna kick his ass, but he says he's not gonna lay down, and he says that there's 40 men that have won this championship, or that have been WWE champion, but there's only one beast that broke the streak, that being Brock Lesnar. So yeah, he keeps, putting over Brock. Eventually Paul Heyman comes out, and they go back and forth. Paul Heyman tells John Cena that he's going to be a victim at SummerSlam. He says that John Cena's going to be beaten, victimized, and conquered. And then Cena goes on about how Brock, Brock is big, he's strong, but the difference between him and Brock is that he has heart, and that he's walking out of SummerSlam with this son of a bitch. And he actually said that and, held up the championship. And then Cesaro's music hits, and I'm like, wait a minute, didn't Cesaro announce that he wasn't a Paul Heyman guy anymore, like last week or something like that, and said that he wanted to be a Triple H guy? Well, thankfully, he explains it, it's not ignored. He basically tells John Cena that, although he decided that he was no longer going to be a Paul Heyman guy, and they just, went their separate ways, or agreed to go to their separate ways, he's not gonna let John Cena insult his friend. And then Cesaro goes on to make fun of John Cena in a pretty entertaining promo. He starts off by saying that John Cena can't even he's not even a wrestler, he's just a muscled up billboard. And he then tells Cena, look at your shoes. Did you get those at Kmart? And then he tells Cena, you can't wrestle in sneakers. Actually, you can't wrestle at all. And I'll prove it to you in a matchup. Thus, he challenges Cena to a match right now. And Cena accepts. So they have a match, and it ends up being an amazing match. It was a great match. Once again, Cesaro versus Cena delivers. The first time, I don't know if it was the first time. Actually, I think it was, maybe. When they had a match on Raw a while back, it was great. This one, no different. Cesaro actually backflipped, or actually, my bad, front flipped out of, what? What am I even saying? Out of an attitude adjustment. This is the ending I'm describing here of the matchup. So Cena goes for AA. Cesaro front flips out of it. And then he hits a big boot on Cena. Cena bounces off the ropes, comes back with a big boot of his own. Cesaro then rolls under the ropes, and now he's on the apron. He gets up, Cena goes after him once again. Cesaro once again hits him with another big boot, takes him down. And then he goes ahead and climbs up the top turnbuckle. Cena gets up, catches up to Cesaro on the top turnbuckle. He sets him up for an attitude adjustment from the top. He hits it, covers him, and wins the match to open up the show with a great promo and a great match. Following that, we see Triple H and Stephanie backstage. Stephanie's talking to Triple H about how her daughter, had a look of disappointment in her eyes when seeing Stephanie. And then Randy comes up to Triple H, complaining about not being the number one contender, how, he was supposed to be the original plan, right? So why isn't he in the match against John Cena at SummerSlam? He tells Triple H to, make it Randy versus John Cena instead. Triple H says that, he can change the matchup, but is he going to? No, because as long as Roman Reigns is there, then he's gonna screw Randy out of the championship match. So he tells Randy to eliminate Roman Reigns permanently, and then Randy tells him, alright, I'll eliminate Reigns tonight, and then Triple H tells him, well, tonight, Reigns is in the match with Kane, and then Randy looks disappointed and tells Triple H, we'll now have a problem with Kane, and from the looks of it, I also have a problem with you. And then Randy leaves. After that, we get Paige in the ring, and she basically is apologizing for her actions last week, saying that her emotions got the best of her, and that she's never gonna do something like that again. And then AJ comes out, and AJ basically tells her if she had a problem with Paige, she'd tell her in the face, not attack her from behind or whatever. And Paige tells AJ, I'm your friend, trust me on this. If you don't believe me, then you're just crazy. And then when she says that word, AJ looks at her, and Paige is like, oh, I didn't mean that. And then AJ is like, yeah, you know, we all, you know, mess up sometimes, and then she, all of a sudden, she attacks Paige, she throws her out of the ring, shoves her onto the barricade, she then tries to throw her onto the steel steps, but Paige avoids it, and then Paige just leaves, gets out of there. And then Triple H and Stephanie McMahon come out. Triple H then talks about how he's disappointed in the fans for laughing at Stephanie last week when she was getting arrested. He says everything's fine though, well, almost everything, because all the charges have been dropped except for the battery and assault charge that Brie Bella has against Stephanie. So then he says that, you know, Brie Bella is here tonight, so they want to bring her out here to set this all straight and put this all behind them. And then they wait for Brie Bella to come out, but instead of Brie Bella coming out, actually, it's Chris Jericho who comes back instead, and he gets a pretty entertaining promo too. He makes fun of Stephanie like he used to do, and in the beginning he says, you know, he feels bad for them, he feels bad for Stephanie, and he wants to sing this song to them to represent how he feels about them. And then he starts singing the Bad Boy song, you know, what you gonna do, you know, when they come for you. And the crowd starts, you know, singing that with Jericho, and they laugh too. And then Y2J makes fun of Triple H, he makes fun of his nose. And then he also makes fun of Triple H, or tells, you know, Triple H, or asks him, why didn't you go with Stephanie when she got arrested? Why didn't you go with her with the police to the police station? Instead, you waited like 15 minutes after the show to go there. And then Y2J says, oh, you know what? I think I know why you did that. And then Y2J says, that's because you're starting to realize what I realized years ago, that Stephanie is nothing but a dirty, bottom-feeding, trash bag hoe. And then Triple H tells Y2J to shut up, and that he should focus less on them, and focus more on Bray Wyatt. And Jericho says that's why he's here in the first place, and it's because he wants Bray Wyatt in a match tonight. Triple H tells him, you want Bray Wyatt tonight? Well, you'll have to wait until Summerslam. But as far as tonight goes, and then Seth Rollins comes from behind and attacks Jericho with the briefcase, taking him out. And Triple H then announces that it's going to be Jericho versus Seth Rollins tonight. Afterwards, we get a 6-man tag team match. It's Ryback and The Miz versus Dolph Ziggler and the Usos. And Xavier Woods, Big E, and Kofi were actually at ringside watching the match. They didn't do anything, they didn't attack anyone, but they were watching, and the end of the match came when both the Usos, well, one of them took out Curtis Axel off the ring with a clothesline, but it was kind of botched, the clothesline, it looked kind of sloppy, but anyways, he got him out of the ring, and then he jumped over the top rope and hit it, you know, the springboard, or not the springboard, but the crossbody that the Usos do from inside the ring to the outside. He hits that on Curtis Axel. And then the other Uso tries to do the same to The Miz, but The Miz quickly gets on the apron, and right before the Uso jumps, The Miz grabs him by the head and shoves him like neck first onto the top rope, and then the two legal men were Ryback and Ziggler. Ryback gets Ziggler in the powerbomb position, so Ziggler's on Ryback's shoulders, but Ziggler gets off of it, and then he lands behind Ryback, hits him with a zigzag, covers him, and wins the match. Then following that, R-Truth makes his entrance. And then Bo Dallas makes his entrance, and he cuts a promo before the match, making fun of R-Truth, telling R-Truth that everybody knows that R-Truth can't be undefeated like him. In fact, R-Truth's lost a lot of matches in his career. But, you know, all he has to do, you know, one day he can be victorious, all he has to do is believe. And then the match starts. It was really short. Bo Dallas got a bit overconfident. He started a victory lap on the outside before even winning the match. And then once he goes back in the ring, shortly after, R-Truth rolls him up, and he actually gets to win. So R-Truth is the first to beat Bo Dallas. R-Truth has just broken the streak. R-Truth has just broken Bo Dallas' undefeated streak. Now, all they need to do is have R-Truth join the new faction or stable of R-Truth, of Xavier Woods, Big E, and Kofi, and then you have Xavier Woods bring up every single time that his client, R-Truth, conquered the Bo Dallas undefeated streak. Anyways, so after that, Bo Dallas grabs a microphone and he tells R-Truth, wow, I can't believe that you're the first one to beat me, but it's okay. And then right away, well actually he shakes R-Truth's hand, but then he hits him with a punch, and he assaults him in the corner. He puts R-Truth's head under the apron and then starts hitting him with a bunch of punches to the back. And then he gets back in the ring, and he hits a double arm DDT, and that's it for that. And then Rusev and Lana are in the ring, and once again, they cut a promo, making fun of the US, making fun of Obama, and him just pointing his finger at Russia for their actions of peace. And then Zeb Colter and Swagger interrupt, and they come out with the flag, the US flag, and they go over what, the US flag represents. And out of all the things they said, the things that got, the biggest pop is when Zeb Colter says it represents, trucks, pretty girls, and beer, and that got the biggest pop out of all the other things he said. And then he tells Lana, whenever you run down the USA or, talk trash like that, all it does is it makes it easier for these people to put their hands over their hearts, rise up, and, say along with us, we, the people, and the crowd does it with Zeb Colter, and then Swagger gives the flag to Zeb, and then he charges the ring. Rusev gets out of the ring. They fight. Rusev gets the better of Swagger, and then he puts him back in the ring. He goes for the accolade, but Swagger grabs him by the leg, locks in the Patriot Lock for just a second until Rusev pushes him off, but then Swagger hits him with a big boot, and Rusev rolls out the ring. And then it's Damien Sandow versus Adam Rose. Damien Sandow this time was dressed as an astronaut. Match really didn't last long at all. It was maybe a minute. Adam Rose wins with a party foul. And then after that, it was time for Reigns versus Kane. Kane makes his entrance first, and then Reigns. And during Reigns' entrance, Randy was kind of hiding in the crowd, and then he attacks Reigns. They fight it out at ringside. Reigns takes out Orton by, I think, throwing him on the steel steps. And then him and Kane fight it out on the inside of the ring. Reigns hits him with a Samoan drop, and then Randy gets back in the ring, but Reigns hits him with a Superman punch. And then eventually Kane hits him with a choke slam, and then he just looks at Kane, and leaves. So he leaves Reigns to Randy, and the match never starts. They never have the match. Instead, just Randy continues on the attack. He hits him with a DDT from the barricade, and then he smashes Reigns' head against the steps. And then he looks at the announcer's table, he takes, the top off, and he puts Reigns on the table, and he hits an RKO on Reigns, but the table doesn't break. And, it's something that happens a lot when he hits the RKO, just the announcer's table doesn't break. And most of the time, he just leaves it at that. But this time, the crowd started chanting, "You fucked up, you fucked up." So, I guess that got to Randy. So, Randy picked him up once again and hit another RKO on the announcer's table, except this time making sure to land super hard on the table so, that can break. And this time, he was successful. The table broke, and then afterwards, Randy hit the Randy Orton pose, and that was it for the segments. After that, it was Diego versus Fandango. And Diego came out with Summer Rae and Layla dressed as Matadoras as well. So, anyways, as far as the match, Diego wins with a roll-up. After the match, Fandango gets on the apron and questions Layla and Summer Rae, or tells them why, and then El Torito hits him with a spear? Or a headbutt. Hits him with a headbutt. And then they celebrate. Afterwards, Stephanie McMahon knocks on the Divas locker room. Nikki Bella comes out. And Nikki says, "I understand you want to see me." And then Steph says, "Yeah, I wanted to see Brie." And then Nikki says, "Brie's gonna be here." And then Stephanie tells Nikki, "I just hope Brie can be reasonable." And then Nikki reacts to that by saying, "There's not a lot of people like you, Steph, that have eaten a plate of crap. I just hope you like the taste of it." And then she gets back in the locker room. And then they have a Divas tag team match. It's Natalya and Naomi versus Cameron and Licia Fox. And during the match, Naomi was distracted by Cameron, or, she was attacking Cameron while Cameron wasn't the legal, diva in the ring. So she was attacking Cameron on the outside, and then Licia Fox grabs her, puts her back in the ring, and Licia Fox hits the scissors kick on Naomi, and Naomi actually kicks out of the scissors kick. I wasn't expecting that. And eventually, Naomi looks to have added a new finisher because she locks in a head scissors on Cameron, and Cameron taps out. So Naomi wins with a head scissors. And after that, it was Chris Jericho versus Seth Rollins. Now, the end of the match came when Seth Rollins hit the powerbomb in the corner, in the turnbuckle, and then he was going to go for the curb stomp, but Jericho got out of it, or he dodged it. And then he went for the walls of Jericho by grabbing Seth Rollins' legs. Seth Rollins, though, grabbed onto the ropes, and then they did that thing where Jericho pulls Seth Rollins off the ropes, and Rollins kind of lands on his feet, and then he follows it up with an enziguri. You know, he's done that a bunch of times. And then Seth Rollins tried to follow it up with a springboard move, maybe the springboard knee, but Jericho caught him with a midair code breaker. And then before Jericho could go for the cover, the lights go out, we see the Wyatt family signal, and then when they come back on, we see the Wyatt family, they attack Jericho, Bray Wyatt hits Sister Abigail, and Bray Wyatt says follow the buzzards, and that's it. After that, it was time for the Stephanie McMahon, Brie Bella segments, and Stephanie comes out first. She talks about how people are looking at her nowadays, how, you know, her kids can't understand why she got arrested, and like these sponsors and all that. They look at her now like as a common criminal. And eventually, the Bella Twins music hits, and Brie Bella comes out, and Brie Bella says she's heard enough from this, you know, she says a sniveling rich bitch. And at this point, I'm like, damn it, is bitch like the only word Brie Bella knows or something? Because for the past couple of months, whenever we see Brie Bella, it's like the only word she says, or not the only word, but, you know, she says it every single time. But yeah, anyway, so she calls her a bitch once again, and then Stephanie's like, you know, I don't deserve this, and then Brie Bella's like, you know, you deserve to go to hell, and then Stephanie tells Brie, okay, how about, you know, I give Nikki Bella a raise and you drop these charges. So then Brie tells Stephanie she's fine with that as long as Stephanie accepts her other demands. And one of her other demands is to get her job back. So Stephanie at first is like hesitant, and she's like, come on, you know, one Bella is enough. But then eventually she gives in and it gives her job back. And then she thinks that's it, and thinks, you know, Brie's gonna drop the charges now, and she's about to leave. And then Brie she tells Stephanie she wants one more thing. And then she says she wants a match at SummerSlam. So then Stephanie's like, oh, that's it? Alright, sure, you know what match you want? Do you want a match for the Divas Championship, or this and that? You know, she's ready to give her any match she wants, until Brie Bella says that the match she wants is a match against her, Stephanie versus Brie Bella. And then when she says that, Stephanie's like shocked, and she's like, you know, you gotta understand, I haven't competed in over 10 years, and now, you know, she's dedicated to being a wife, a mother, and she starts kind of crying, and Brie's like, and, you know, Stephanie's like, you know, she can't do it, and then Brie's like, alright, see you in court then. And she said that twice. She said that the first time, I think, when Stephanie said when Stephanie was hesitant on giving her job back, and then she says it again this time when Stephanie doesn't seem to want to give Brie Bella the match against her at SummerSlam. So she says, yeah, see you in court. Then she gets on the apron, or leaves and gets on the apron, and Stephanie stops her, and she's like, she continues crying, and pretty much she accepts. She says her, alright, you know, are you gonna drop the charges if I give you the match? And Brie Bella says, yes, if you wrestle me at SummerSlam, I'll drop the charges. And then Stephanie says, alright, fine. And, you know, she keeps on crying, and she's like, but you have to consider that after SummerSlam, and then bam, out of nowhere, she slaps Brie, and then she tells her, I'll make you my bitch at SummerSlam. And then I thought it was going to be over then, because then, like, Stephanie was celebrating, or like she was doing the yes chant, and the crowd was actually doing it with Stephanie. And when Stephanie turns around, I think Brie Bella gets back in the ring, and she takes down Stephanie, starts punching her, or slapping her, and then like Jamie Noble, Finlay, and a bunch of other people, they come out and break them up and separate them, and Triple H also comes out. And that pretty much ends the show. And from the ramp, you hear Stephanie telling Brie, you know, that she's gonna make her bitch. And that's how the show ends. So, what did I think about the show? Highlights. Well, first off, highlights for me were like at the very beginning of the show. The opening promo between, not just between John Cena and Paul Heyman, but when John Cena was cutting the promo by himself, and also when Paul Heyman came out, and especially when Cesaro also came out and, you know, started making fun of John Cena. I thought that was a great, like, opening promo. And also the match following that, John Cena versus Cesaro, that was a great match. It seems like whenever Cena and Cesaro have a match, it ends up being great. Also, R-Truth defeating Bo Dallas. I thought that was a highlight, seeing as how, just because it was a surprise. I didn't expect it. In fact, when Bo Dallas came out, after R-Truth had already made his entrance, I was like, oh, you know, it's just Bo Dallas, you know, beating another superstar, beating R-Truth once again, because he had already beaten R-Truth, I think, once or twice. So I was thinking it was just Bo Dallas beating R-Truth once again, and I was kind of disappointed that, you know, he was beating somebody that he's already beaten. I was hoping, you know, for new opponents. So right away when he came out, I was just expecting for Bo Dallas to pick up the win and defeat R-Truth once again. So when R-Truth got the victory, especially in a minute or so, that was a, you know, pretty big surprise there. And I like these types of surprises. It just reinforces that, hey, anything can happen. So even if you think it's predictable, you know, sometimes the unexpected can happen. In this case, it did. Also, nice to see Ziggler pick up some wins here, picking up a victory over Ryback, although Ryback, you know, isn't in the same position he was, like, what, a year ago or so. Still, it's nice to see Ziggler picking up some victories. And also, the Roman Reigns and Randy segment, I did enjoy that. I'm happy that it didn't end the same way it's ended for, like, the past, I'd say, over a month now. When it comes to Roman Reigns segments and matches, because for a while now, whenever Reigns would have a match or a segment or something like that, he'd always stand tall. He'd always be the one standing tall after it, especially when they were leading up to the Money in the Bank ladder match with Reigns involved in it, and also the Fatal 4-Way match. This time, though, Randy stood tall. Even when Kane and Randy were beating up Reigns, I was sort of expecting maybe Reigns to make a comeback, but then eventually once Randy was beating up on Reigns on the outside after Kane had chokeslammed Reigns, I was like, alright, I don't think Reigns is, you know, gonna make a comeback out of this and spear Randy out of nowhere. Also, it's always fun in my opinion to see Randy react to the crowd when they're critical of Randy. In this case, you know, he hits the RKO on the announcer's table and it doesn't break, and then the crowds you know, make sure to point that out to Randy, and so he follows it up with another RKO, and this time the table breaks. I remember a couple months back, before the Rumble match, before the Randy versus John Cena match at the Rumble, Randy was, no, actually, I think it was before the Elimination Chamber, I believe. Randy was in a match against John Cena, and the crowd was chanting out Randy's same old shit. And I think they did that when Randy was about to go for the DDT from the second, you know, between the ropes. So what he did instead is he put John Cena on the top turnbuckle and hit the DDT from there, and then told the crowd, you see, you know, it's not the same old shit or whatever. He said something along those lines too this time. I didn't really hear what he said. So that's about all I gotta say. As far as a rating for tonight's show and just what I thought overall, I thought the best part of Raw was the very beginning of the show. Just like at Battleground. This was the case with Battleground 2, where, in my opinion, the best match was the first match, Battleground, Usos versus the Wyatt family. I thought that was the best match. Here on Raw, I thought Cena versus Cesaro was the best match. It also was the first match, and also I did like the promo that opened up the show. But also, Seth Rollins versus Jericho was a good match, but I definitely liked Jericho versus Cena versus Cesaro better. And what else was I gonna say? Also, I'm happy that it looked like Jericho was about to win the match before he got attacked by the Wyatt family, rather than Seth Rollins winning the match. Because Jericho, you know, like I said, he oftentimes he when he comes back, he puts over a lot of talent, so he ends up losing a lot of matches. It's nice to see Chris Jericho pick up some wins, although this wasn't a win. It was an instance where Jericho did look strong, and like I said, the match ended when Jericho... Actually, you know what? This was a win, because he got attacked by the Wyatt family, so it's a disqualification victory. And even if the Wyatt family hadn't, gotten involved... Jericho was the one to hit the code breaker before the Wyatt family came out, so it seemed like Jericho was about to win the match. And also, I was kind of surprised that Ambrose didn't appear on the show. There was no Dean Ambrose. He didn't interfere in Seth Rollins versus Jericho or anything like that. And when it comes to the ending segment, Brie Bella, Stephanie McMahon, personally I thought Brie versus Stephanie was expected. It was just a question on whether it would happen at SummerSlam or Night of Champions. So it looks like it's going to be at SummerSlam now. It's going to be interesting to see, how this match goes, because we haven't seen Stephanie McMahon in a match in a very, very long time. But anyways, I don't want to talk too long. That's about it. As far as a rating for tonight's show, I would give Raw tonight a 7 out of 10. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, as always, you can click that like button down below. I'd really appreciate it. With that said, I'm out. See you guys.